We are Tuck and O'Neill of ESPN 1080, the team. We're at Fuego at downtown Disney with the great Cuban tradition. They offer a full-service liquor bar. They have indoors, as you see here. The outdoor patio is an upscale Cuban lounge. And at Fuego, your family. Mike, here we are in the opening days of the NBA playoffs.
This is a great place to talk basketball and just hang out. And by the way, I can't help but notice how bad your Knicks are struggling. The team that you picked to beat the Miami Heat are down in this series and are getting embarrassed right now by Miami.
Mike, if I grew a foot every time I was wrong, I'd be ducking because my head would be hitting the moon, okay? I'm sorry.
I'm glad we got that out of the way.
My point is obvious, is that they are not my Knicks.
Oh, they're your Knicks. That is your team.
No.
You sold our audience that was the team to beat, that they were going to take out the Miami Heat.
Yeah, right.
I think you just hated the Heat.
No, I've said after watching 2 games that it's all about LeBron. Now, have I not over the years also asked you to identify LeBron as the greatest basketball player on the planet?
Well, I thought you were smoking a crack pipe instead of a cigar when you said that.
And now you want to revisit that thought?
No, I don't.
You don't think LeBron's the best player of basketball?
No, these New York Knicks, you know what they are? They're a mediocre 7 seed. That's why they're losing.
Let's come back to LeBron. Is LeBron the difference? Is Miami LeBron?
The difference is Miami's team's a lot better than the Knicks.
Okay.
Period.
So you're not going to acknowledge what everybody else does, that LeBron James is the best player in basketball.
He's got a little bit of help. He's got that Dwayne Wade guy. You ever heard of him? He's got a championship ring on his finger.
I acknowledge the greatness of Miami, and I overestimated the
You
New
think?
York Knicks.
A little bit?
All right. Now, what about the Orlando Magic? You know, when we sit here at Fuego in downtown Disney, the Magic have just lost the 3rd game in a series. They had home court advantage after winning the 1st game up in Indiana. That's not there any longer. And, you know, my whole thing is, even going back to game 1 where the Magic won, it's not that the Magic won the game. It's that Indiana lost it, and they have looked the superior team since.
I don't know that Magic have an answer. You look at how many points they're scoring. You pointed that out after the 1st game. The struggles, that hasn't changed. If Indiana plays as good as Indiana can play, the Magic don't have a chance in the series. There is no answer. Dwight Howard is not going to come to the rescue, and they don't have anyone else in that team that can score the basketball right now.
You know, and with respect, it's Stan's team, and Stan has, you know, trying to pull the vocal trigger that will get his team fired up. But I think it's become pretty obvious. Part of the reason that the starting 5s Indiana has dominated is because Indiana's better. You know, that has a lot to do with it. They have a 7-foot-plus guy in the middle who's been blocking everything that comes his way. It's obvious that as the series continues, the Magic players who drive the basketball, whether it's Glenn Davis down on the low block, are intimidated by that.
They don't have an answer. They don't have the size they have. And you called Zildjius Ilgauskas Sasquatch. This is like Sasquatch 2.0 with Roy Hibbert right now. He's just standing up there as tall as he can, and there's nothing Big Baby, who is, what is he, listed at 6'8"? He's probably 6'6". There's nothing he can do about it. He's getting his shot blocked more than, you know, you probably did in high school.
When I was a kid, I had a jumping bean who could get off the ground higher than Big Baby.
He has a dunk in this series, though.
That's true.
And he's about the only Magic player that's playing worth a darn right now.
Well, again, they're overmatched without Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard is what makes the Orlando Magic because of the style of basketball that they play. And they're not able to use the inside-outside game. You know, they're pick and pop right now. Big Baby, were it not to go back to game 3, if he doesn't make a high percentage, you know, the difference at the half was 6 points. It would have been 26. So, you know, I think we have to be realistic about what the Magic have. We knew coming in that they were not going to be a contender. And it's disappointing, but real.
That balloon deflated really quickly last night, though. There was some energy and some excitement after they won the 1st game, but now I don't know what you have to look forward to except for an off offseason that are probably as turbulent as this entire season.
And, you know, when we look at the playoff picture, the big picture, we back out a little bit and even encompass the West, I don't think there's much doubt. We see in the East, Miami is the dominant team. In the West, even though it's very early, the top seed San Antonio has looked very good.
Yeah, well, they're very good, and they're a team nobody wants to talk about or get excited about because they're not flashy enough. And I don't think people care enough to look at them because they are flashy. They're exciting. They score more points than anyone in the league, and yet nobody wants to look at them because they think of Tim Duncan as this big stiff guy that doesn't say anything, but my goodness, they just go out there and they throttle people every time they get on the floor. Oklahoma City, they're up 2-0. Looks like the champs could be on the ledge right now with Dallas, but I don't know if anyone's good enough to beat San Antonio if they keep playing this way.
How about Fuego in downtown Disney? How
Unbelievable.
fun is
This place is on fire, and this is the place to come hang out. If you are looking to get a cigar, maybe have a nice drink at the bar, this is a cool place to come out and talk sports.
And trust me, the Cuban tradition just jumps off the page. And to get to know the people here, as they say, Fuego, your family, which is very cool. Mike, the one thing about your Lakers, okay, we gotta talk about that a little bit.
All right.
How many times do you think the Lakers are going to have to call a timeout for your big boy, Andrew Bynum?
Timeout for him?
Yeah.
You think he's going to get in trouble?
guy-
They're already down Meta World Peace.
The guy wears a bib during timeouts.
The guy is good. You're jealous that the Magic don't have him.
Oh, are you pleased?
The best center in the NBA playoffs right now.
please.
There isn't a center better
That's
than him.
because 12 is sitting across town in LA.
Well.
Okay, and not playing for the Orlando Magic.
He got tired of carrying this team here in Orlando on his back all these years.
That Tyson Chandler has been named the Defensive Player of the Year makes me almost curl up into a fetal position and cry like a baby. Are you kidding me? If Dwight Howard is playing basketball, he's the best defensive player, period.
Well, that's all right. Jordan didn't win every MVP, even though he was the best player in every year he played from about 1990 through the end of his career.
Let's bring it back to the Orlando Magic a little bit. We know the inevitable. At some point, they're going to be knocked out of the playoffs, probably sooner than later.
That was the iceberg last night, I think.
Yeah, okay. And if we can look ahead and give our predictions as to what we think will happen in what could be a very volatile offseason.
For the Magic,
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see a lot of these guys that we've got used to seeing on this Magic team.
Does Dwight Howard come back?
Dwight Howard will be back, at least for the start of the season. This team, this ownership group, Rich DeVos, he has less years to live than you do, probably. I'm guessing. He doesn't want to not win a championship.
Wait,
he knows
time
the
out.
only way he's
Time
winning
out.
championships with him.
What do you know about my future?
You could be days away from a stroke. Let's be honest.
Whatever.
It's probably not helping.
All right, let me take my attention back to the Magic, if I might, Doctor. And that is, do you think Stan will be here? I don't.
No. New general manager, new coach, new team.
We have talked about her briefly. You know, people knew about Dwight. Dwight had an opportunity to opt out of his final year. He chose not to. That was convincing him to come back. Jameer Nelson could opt out of his final year. It's a player option. Nobody's talking about that. You think Jameer will be here next year?
Jameer will not be here next year. Ryan Anderson will not be here next year. I think they'll get creative, maybe find a way he's a restricted free agent, trade him, bring in some new faces, try to make Dwight Howard happy. If it works, Dwight Howard might stick around. If it doesn't, bye-bye.
Will the guy that brings him in be named Otis Smith?
No, will not be Otis Smith.
So the general manager, the coach got to go.
Yes.
I agree. And I agree with you that I think that Dwight Howard will be a member of the Orlando Magic, at least at the outset of the year, and may indeed, though I don't like the fact that he's away from the team, because when we saw the influences on Dwight in an offseason where you could not communicate because of the lockout with your own team, you know, he came back bitter and looked as though he wanted to be anywhere but. But I'm going to hope that that is not the case. But I too agree. If this franchise is to remain competitive, they've got to start with Dwight Howard and not start over.
You got to make your star happy. There's only so many stars in the league that you can win with, and he's one of them.
Hey, listen, Fuego, downtown Disney. You guys are going to be impressed. It's got the full liquor bar, the great Cuban tradition, And at Fuego, your family, Mike and I are finding that out. Indoors, outdoors, 2 different locations. They've got another location here at Downtown Disney, but we're kind of in the Pleasure Island area of Downtown Disney. Come see us down here at Fuego at Downtown Disney.